Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, Christmas is over and the DUP has declared yet again today that it won't vote for Theresa May's deal, so a disorderly Brexit is becoming a distinct possibility, triggering a frenzy of preparations more akin to times of conflict. University leaders warned today that such a Brexit would be catastrophic for research and funding. More than 1,000 English and Scottish police officers are being trained for extra duty in case of a hard border on the island of Ireland. And then there are the ports being prepped for an armada of emergency ferries. Our chief correspondent, Alex Thompson, is live in Ramsgate. Alex.
Yes, Matt, we're eyes today on the Christmas lights that still festoon the yachts in the marina behind me, but the mundanity of the workaday Dutch dredger came on stream yesterday, scheduled to work for 12 weeks. Well, do the maths. That puts the job of dredging out Ramsgate's somewhat obsolete harbour to finish just a day or so after Brexit Day. What's really happening here? I mean, it seems there's a sort of a national debate going on about whether this is genuine, urgent emergency planning for a Brexit exit with no deal at all, or is it something designed to scare MPs into going along with the May proposal in the Commons in the coming week or two? Or, of course, does one have the happy byproduct for the Prime Minister of the other? Well, what's going on here is extremely bizarre. You would expect a local council to be shouting from the rooftops that they've got a great new rejuvenating product for their port here. Nothing of that. They are silent. They're not giving interviews, as you'll see in a moment or two. So too the port, which is owned by the local council. And so it goes on. Questions too mounting up of the company itself, Seaborne Freight. What exactly do they have in the way of a deal with the two ports here in Ramsgate and across the North Sea in Ostend? We've been digging around about that today, and what we found is quite illuminating, not least from what Seaborne Freight had to say to us this afternoon themselves. Have a look at this.
Transport Secretary Chris Grayling's big idea: reopening Ramsgate's freight ferry terminal to ease pressure on Dover should we leave the EU without a deal. It would be the largest potential investment to hit Ramsgate's dilapidated and loss-making port in years. And yet, silence today. The local council declined to be interviewed. The port itself, owned by the council, also keeping stum.
I think the degree of secrecy is outrageous. I think what we need is openness. I think we need some transparency. I think if £14 million has been given to Seaborne Freight, there should be due diligence done. It should be an open process. We should know why that's been done and what the metrics of that are. And actually, it is time that the council spoke out about it.
Chris Grayling insists proper due diligence has been done on this company. But tonight, what we know for sure paints a chaotic picture for a ferry service that must be up and running here just over 80 days from now. This is Seaborne Freight's investor briefing dated April this year. And here is section 5 called Progress to Date. It states, Seaborne Freight offers investors a well-advanced comprehensive business plan. And the first point is this: detailed port agreements for Ramsgate and Ostend negotiated and agreed. But the truth is they are not formally agreed. Here, the Port of Ramsgate did manage to tell us no deal has been done. And across the North Sea in Ostend, they also say no deal has been finally agreed with Seaborne Freight. Moreover, this afternoon Seaborne Freight admitted to Channel 4 News that, in their words, no final deal has in fact been struck, despite what they told investors. The company emailed us saying,
now our plans are coming together, formal agreements will be concluded in the normal manner, and at that point all the requirements of both sides will be satisfied.
Meanwhile, Seaborne Freight also say they're paying for the dredging of the port in preparation for the deal. Will this job be done in time? Is it vital or just so much Brexit political theatre? The Dutch dredging company referred us to Seaborne Freight. We're awaiting their response. But campaigners in Ramsgate insist the company has not got the ships to do the job now and won't get them either by the March deadline.
We know every ship that can get into Ramsgate port. There are not that many of them. We know who owns them, and we know where they are, and we know whether they're available for charter. And I can tell you for a rock-solid fact, I checked this morning, and there is not a ship in the world at this moment that Seaborne Freight can get their hands on.
Well, that is some claim. Can he back it up?
All the ships that can get into the port of Ramsgate, we know where they are. P&O have got 4 in Dover, DFDS have got some. A sensible thing to have done, if you were Chris Grayling, would have said, well, if Dover gets gridlocked, we'll just move those ships from Dover to Ramsgate and get on with it.
We put this to Seaborne Freight today. Perhaps they could name the ships they have earmarked. They claimed months ago to have several named ships potentially available. As yet, though, we've not heard back from them tonight.
Alex Thompson in Ramsgate. Now, more facts are emerging about the boss behind Seaborne Freight, the no-ship startup, which won a £14 million government contract to run ferries across the Channel in a no-deal Brexit scenario. That's a lot of no's. Our business editor, Siobhan Kennedy, has been digging away. What have you found, Siobhan?
We have been hitting the phones all day, Matt, and this is about a previous company that was run by Mr Sharp called Mercator International that won so-called armed escort vessels that run those in the region around the Red Sea and the Gulf to ward off pirates, that spate of Somali pirates we saw around 2008 and onwards. Now, last night we reported allegations that Mercator owed one firm that Mr Sharp had dealings with more than $1 million when Mercator was put into liquidation in 2013, when it went bust effectively. Now, Mr Sharp refuted those allegations, but today, Matt, we have seen legal documents that very much call into question Mr Sharp's denial. Take a look at this.
This is the man, Ben Sharp, who's been entrusted with a £14 million contract to deliver crucial ferry services in the event of a Brexit no deal. He's the boss of Seaborne Freight, but many years ago he also ran another shipping firm called Mercator International, but it was a very different business. In the warm waters of the Red Sea and the Gulf of Oman, he chartered ships to provide armed escort vessels that protected larger boats from pirates in these hazardous waters.
Last night on this programme, one firm that Mr Sharp had dealings with, called Mid-Gulf Offshore, claimed it had been left more than $1 million out of pocket when Mr Sharp's company, Mercator, was shut down in 2013. We now know because it failed to pay its taxes to HMRC, raising serious questions about the level of due diligence carried out by government before handing Mr Sharp and his current company the no-deal ferry contract.
We put this allegation to Mr Sharp last night, and in a statement he told Channel 4 News,
"The claim allegedly made by Mid-Gulf is denied."
But now this programme has obtained a promissory note agreed by Mid-Gulf, Mr Sharp and Mercator. In it, Mercator International Limited, represented by John Edmund Paul Ben Sharp, acknowledges the promisor Mercator International owes a sum of $1,019,682.72 to Mid-Gulf, and further promises to repay that sum in 2 separate payments of $500,000 by December 2013, with a balance to be paid by the end of that month. We asked Mr Sharp again today if he still denied the claim by Mid-Gulf. He told us,
"Our previous comments stand."
Asked if that meant he had paid the 2 sums, Mr Sharp said,
"See previous comment."
So far, the Department for Transport has said due diligence on Seaborne Freight and Mr Sharp was carried out by senior officials and third-party organisations. But the boss of Mid-Gulf Offshore, Manoj Matthew, has tonight reiterated that his company was never repaid.
Siobhan Kennedy reporting. Well, I'm joined now from Oxford by Rod Mackenzie, Managing Director of Policy and Public Affairs at the Road Haulage Association. Thanks for coming in the programme. Happy New Year. So the government has said that these preparations taking place are enough and on time. Do you buy that?
No, I don't, Matt. These preparations for a no-deal Brexit should have started many, many months ago. We have 60 working days to go to a potential cliff-edge Brexit, and let's hope it's not a cliff edge. What we want is a transition period that buys us more time. Why? Because business needs more time. British business is not ready for a cliff-edge Brexit, and it's not just the haulage and logistics industry that will be hit by that, it's all of us.
Of course, there are some people who want Brexit to happen, are happy with a no-deal Brexit, who say that actually this is just scaremongering. You know, when it comes on the 29th of March, we will be prepared, and actually, despite a few hiccups, business and life will continue as before. What do you say to them?
Well, we don't do Project Fear, we do Project Reality. And the reality is, if there is a no-deal Brexit, there are 40,000 lorries that will need 2,000 permits to get across to the other side of the channel. Now, that means roughly 38,000 lorries won't be able to trade, and that's going to affect our supply chain, the crucial supply chain that keeps Britain running. There is also the question of customs. With non-EU rules, the customs burden on logistics companies to fill out forms is enormous. And do you know what? We haven't really been told what we need to do. So with the clock running out on us, British business simply doesn't quite know what to do. And what's happening at Manston and what's happening in Ramsgate, well, it's not going to solve the problem.
And Manston is that disused airport that's going to be turned into a very large parking lot for lorries, right?
Well, that's right, and we learnt today that, we knew about it for a little while, but it's now sort of hit the public domain, that there's going to be a dry run, if you like, for a potential Dover chaos on Monday, with around about 100 lorries turning up at Manston early in the morning to do a dry run of what it would be like to be held there for a while and then moved off to Dover in due course to relieve the pressure on the port of Dover. But the problem is that there are 12,000 lorries a day that use Dover, and this is a dummy run with around about 100. So again, it's difficult to come to a conclusion other than, okay, you can't criticise the government for doing no-deal planning, but not at this stage and not on this scale.
I mean, a lot of the language used for preparing for a no-deal really is akin to the kind of language used in times of conflict. But then when you look at that single dredger in the port of Ramsgate, you think more of Dad's army, don't you?
Well, there are certainly many images that come to mind. You know, Alex Thompson in his report was talking about the fact that it might take up to Brexit Day or no-deal Brexit Day for the port to be adequately dredged. You know, we are running out of time. And by the way, Ramsgate, and you know, you've done a very serious piece of journalistic investigation on the company and all that. But even if we were to believe the government press release, they're going to have a couple of ferries to start with, and maybe a couple later. That's not going to be enough to ship the sort of lorries we need.
Let me ask you one final question. Do you think it's possible that these, you know, preparations for a no-deal Brexit, which sound incredibly serious, and, you know, a lot of the stuff that the no-deal Brexiteers would say is just scaremongering. Do you think that this is political theatre put on by the government to scare MPs into voting for Theresa May's deal?
Well, of course, that's a political interpretation, Matt, and clearly one that a lot of people would agree with. The Road Haulage Association isn't a party political organisation. What we're worried about is our members, hauliers, who do this vital job to carry stuff to you and me every day of the week, the things that we rely on to make the UK supply chain work, and it could fail if we get a bad outcome here.
OK. Rob Mackenzie, thanks very much. Got to leave it there.